welcome to the Local Report. It is where I, Tiana Johnson, bring you news. What is happening in our world? What is happening in our cities? What is happening in our lives? Also, in recent developments, what is happening virtually? I know you see I got 3 lashes on each eye. Mind your business. Okay, if you're not going to pay for it, then don't say nothing, okay? I got to make it do what it do. And speaking of paying for things, America doesn't give a about us. Let's start there. I'm sorry if you came for unbiased news. My news is totally biased, but what it won't be is incorrect. Okay? So I can promise you that I will always do research. I will always have reputable resources, but my news will be biased, okay? And it is what it is. America does not give a about us. Okay, let's talk about it. The cost of groceries is insane. I should stop cussing so much so I can monetize this so I can have something to eat, by the way. But yeah, the cost of groceries is insane. It's something that I think that we've all noticed. I feel like they locked us down for the pandemic and they just drove those prices up. And that is how I felt. And so that led me to actually do some research behind that because I'm like, are our groceries going up or is this just a result of simply just inflation? The grocery store is probably my favorite place. So when people say there was like a yoga or meditation teacher in the room and they encouraged me to go to my happy place, that would be the grocery store. A nice little Whole Foods, a nice little Trader Joe's, something like that. If you from California, a Safeway, shout out to Safeway, something like that. I just feel nothing makes me feel more at home than those cold aisles, those spice racks, the produce, cheese. I just love the grocery store. I love the possibilities. America is making it really hard for me to enjoy something that I love with its neglect for our pockets. Okay, because groceries are insane right now. Groceries are at an all-time freaking high. I remember $100. I used to be able to feed myself for a week, over a week probably, as a single woman. Now it's gonna be about 200 some dollars a week to feed myself, and that's eating away at a significant amount of my income. Which survival is important, and we cannot survive without life. And in order to live life, we need to be alive. In order to be alive, we need to eat. And so I have to pay for those groceries. Unfortunately, our government is making it harder and harder for us. And so let me just tell you just how hard things are. So I did some research on food inflation. Why the fuck are these groceries so high? What are y'all doing? Y'all trying to kill us? Are y'all starving us? Is this the famine? Like, what is going on? Did I use famine correctly, by the way? I'm sorry. In addition to being biased, the show will also be not politically correct. Okay. So World War II is when the grocery industry in America was basically created. Let me just make sure that that's correct. Okay, y'all. So the first grocery store, the first supermarket in America was invented. I feel like invented is not the right word. Was opened in 1916. It was called the Piggly Wiggly. And that is dead ass the name. The Piggly Wiggly was the first supermarket in America. And for some reason, that is so on brand with America. We look like a Piggly Wiggly ass country. Anyway, love America, but it is what it is. It's true. The Piggly Wiggly was opened in 1916 in Memphis, Tennessee, which is kind of cool. That was where our first supermarket was. Before that, we would just take a list, we would give it to a clerk. The clerk would give us our items. And so the Piggly Wiggly was the first self-service grocery store. And so then they decided to lower the prices of the items in 1916 because at that point the customers were picking the items themselves as opposed to getting the items from a clerk, just much like when you order items from Instacart or something or Uber Eats these days, how you'll pay a surcharge for sure of some sort. You'll pay and the price of the items being marked up, or there's fees attached to it because someone else is picking out your groceries and bringing them to your home. I'm not sure if they were delivering them at that time, but you definitely weren't picking out your own groceries. I don't know how that quality control worked back then. Cause I know sometimes when I order on Instacart, y'all be giving me some nasty ass produce because y'all don't care. Like I'm gonna need y'all to knock on my watermelon and listen. And I don't know what y'all listening for when you do that, but do it anyway. Cause I need to feel like you care about me and what goes in my body. Thank you. They probably can't care though because these fucking prices and we are always concerned about our survival on a minute by minute basis. So that would be cool if we could put some systems in place so we wouldn't have to worry about that. So our Instacart drivers can care about our blackberries and strawberries. This is a message directly to I'm talking to you, America. I believe that the Piggly Wiggly was one of the first franchises as well, because the owner of the Piggly Wiggly, what is that man's name? Let me call him by name. What is his name? Clarence Saunders. Mr. Clarence Saunders opened the Piggly Wiggly and he allowed it to be a franchise. So people were able to this doesn't even matter. It was a franchise at some point. The point is these groceries is expensive. 1916 was the first supermarket. They became cheaper because we're picking out our own items. Put a pin in that. Next. So 1916, the supermarket was invented. By 1960, America was selling 70% of our groceries out of supermarkets. So we were buying at least 70% of our food from supermarkets by that. Now, fast forward to 2024 in America, about 89%, 90% of our nation is getting their groceries at supermarkets. What are you doing 10%? Because I need to do that. I know you're probably growing your food or going to the farmer's market. Most likely you're growing your food. And I will get there one day. But I wonder how many of those groceries are delivered as opposed to shopped in store. Lazy ass heifers. Okay, and that's me. I'm lazy. According to Forbes, grocery prices are 30% higher than they were 4 years ago. 30% higher than they were 4 years ago. Do you know what happened 4 years ago? The pandemic happened. And so that brings me back to my theory of when they locked us down, they hiked our food prices up during that time. I mean, obviously everything went up during that time, including housing, but we'll get to that. What's insane to me and something that I will want to talk about on another episode is how unemployment was at 13%, which is like a super all-time high. During the pandemic, this is when unemployment was at 13%. It dropped and now we're around 4%. Um, but if unemployment is dropping and the access to jobs are increasing and more people are entering into the workforce, why is the wealth gap so large? Why is there so many people? Why is there 800,000 home unhoused people in New York City? Why do 38 million people live below the poverty line? And to be below the poverty line, you have to be making $30,000 or less per year. USA Today reported, and we're going to use those numbers because across the board, when I did my research, basically everybody came around to the same average. But USA Today reported that a U.S. family of four needs about $300 a week for groceries. Of four. Maybe back in 2015, maybe, but I need about $300 groceries by myself, almost damn near. And that is to eat fresh food, whole foods every day. Maybe if we're considering processed foods, that might change. But when we create these numbers and these statistics, we should consider what a family needs to eat good, healthy, square meals. Every single person in the family unit eating a good square meals every breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, 7 days a week. I'm not talking about mom having to skip out on meals because she wants to make sure to feed the kids. And that is something that happens. If you don't know that reality, then God bless you. I'm glad that you never had to experience that. But I know this all too well from my peers and from personal experiences that sometimes parents have to skip out on meals in order to feed the rest of their family. And so I would really like to know what Americans are they surveying when they come up with those numbers? The US grocery industry, according to Forbes, is a 1.03 trillion. Let me say it again. $6 trillion industry. What? Okay, I'm sorry to have my phone, but I just need to read this word for word, okay? Typical inflation dogma is that, which is like ideologies or like ideas around it. The typical inflation ideologies is that consumer demand and labor costs drive inflation. Okay? So us as consumers, us needing more groceries, us needing food, and the cost of them paying for labor, the companies, is what they're saying drives up labor costs. These orthodoxies are not supported by the math. Corporate profits as a share of the national income are at historic highs, while workers' shares is lower than before the pandemic. And labor shortages get a lot of media attention. Retail labor costs increased as food workers demanded better pay and benefits after getting stressed out, sick, and even dying at work during the pandemic. Dying. But even if retail labor costs went up 50% across the board, this would result in price increases of just 5 to 10% at grocery stores, hardly justifying the hikes in steaks, yogurts, or fucking hash browns, nigga. I can't even have a hash brown anymore. You know how expensive a bag of tater tots is? A bag of potatoes? A stick of deodorant? Have you been to Target and seen the average price of a stick of regular deodorant? Like, Secret was like the cheap stuff. Now we paying $12 to $13 for a stick of anti-must. It's blowing my mind, man. It's blowing my mind. Okay, so listen, if I come up missing, you better check these grocery store tycoons, okay? Because Walmart's Walton family has a combined net worth of over $238 billion. Do you know how much those people get paid at Walmart? Do you know how many single mothers and single fathers are at Walmart struggling to get by, working long hours? And meanwhile, this family built an amazing brand and they definitely deserve to have their riches, but it's not adding up. Why are the employees making so little money? And yet this is a multi-billion dollar business. I'm talking about $238 billion. Their family is set for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And that's a beautiful thing. But meanwhile, it's being built off the back of these really, really poor, struggling people who are barely getting by on a day to day as far as the labor goes. And then you have the consumers who are also getting fucked, who are coming in paying $13 for a stick of secret deodorant. That 238 billion was an 8.8 billion increase from 2020, the pandemic year to 2022. Almost $9 billion increase in the Walmart family fortune in 2 years starting from the pandemic. Come on, that's insane. The Mars family, Mars bars, Snickers, and things like that, added 21 billion to their fortune from 2020 to 2021. Food and agricultural billionaires added 400 billion to their wealth from 2020 to 2021, with COVID-19 related food inflation creating over 60 new food billionaires. COVID food See, I'm appalled. That's why I can't even get it out. COVID food inflation has made 60 new billionaires in the food industry. Let's think about that. Let's digest that. No pun intended. Let's digest this shit. Because since we don't got no food to digest, let's digest this information. Okay, so this is the last thing I want to say. One of the last things. Damn, this is crazy. There's so much information to process here. Okay, like main points that I do want to point out is that I do want to point out that in 2022, the share of your income that is allocated to purchasing food went up by 13% in 2022. And I know your income didn't go up. Maybe it did. And if it did, once again, God bless you. But I know a lot of us are living in a paycheck to paycheck situation. According to this article, about 58% of us are living paycheck to paycheck. And paycheck to paycheck isn't the only poor disposition to be in this country. You could, even if you're not living paycheck to paycheck, you can still very well be struggling purchasing groceries. especially if you have a family. Food insecurity impacts 27 million Americans. Food insecurity is when you don't have access to fresh food, whole foods. It's when you go to those neighborhoods and you go for miles and miles and miles, and all you see are liquor stores, convenience stores, liquor stores. That is a food desert. The Bronx, a lot of the Bronx, food desert. Where I come from, in a lot of the areas in Oakland, food desert. There's a lot. There's plenty of examples all around America. I think one of the poorest states in America is Mississippi, and I'm willing to bet that there's a ton of food deserts there. And we know that the lack of food leads to poor performance in every aspect of your life. So essentially, by not having access to food, you are setting your citizens up for failure, for failure in school, for failure at work, for failure socially, and not giving them the nourishment that they need to function as a human being in society. Meanwhile, demanding maximum level of performance from them. More than 40 million people fell below the poverty line in 2022. This is all happening in 1 year, y'all. This is very alarming. And I know a lot is going on in the world, and it's just there's so already so much to consider and worry about that you don't want to have to wrap your brains around every little thing that is happening to you. I do also believe that there's a lot of beautiful things happening in the world, but there are some critical things that need to be addressed, and there's some things that we need to be aware of. This is one of them. Food is something that we need to live to properly function as people. This is alarming. This should be alarming to you. Okay. To wrap this all up, the USDA thinks that food will decrease by 0.5% in 2024. So you just rest your pretty little American head, your pretty little starving head, to know that our food will decrease by 0.5% in 2024. Thank you, US. So let me tell you about what you guys can do. What we can do, damn, I want to show this little patch. It's cute. What we can do is encourage the Department of Justice to persecute the violators that are hiking up these food prices, that are exploiting people for their labor in the food industry, as well as exploiting customers. See, let me tell you what France did, because France got it right, and I gotta read it. I'm sorry, I just gotta read it verbatim because that's what I got. I gotta move on from this phone shit because this is not ideal. But while a growing number of US grocers have been pushing back on price increases, the French government secured lower pricing pledges from 75 food conglomerates that produce over 80% of groceries. 80% of groceries. The French government has threatened to claw back profits from violators. With the support of the French government, keyword governments, mass market grocer Carrefour, I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry, I don't speak French, dropped several PepsiCo products over price hikes. Tesco resolved a pricing dispute with Kraft Heinz after the CPG giant stopped shipping products to the chain a week after Mars resolved a similar dispute. On and on and on. There's plenty of examples, but basically, all in all, it was the French government that held their food conglomerates accountable, and that is what needs to happen here. We need to encourage our Department of Justice to hold violators accountable, because we cannot survive like this moving forward. We cannot. And we won't even begin to get into how much starvation is happening around the world. In the US, that is a that is another whole segment for another day. But for now, when it comes to groceries, we have to hold those accountable. And let's talk about Walmart one more time, because fuck that place. Walmart is rolling out digital price tags, which means that they will be able to, at any moment, any time of the day, change the pricing of their products because it's going to be digital. So, say there's a tomato that's $2. If they decide that they want to make the tomato $3 by 12 o'clock, and the tomato was $2 at 8 a.m. that day, they will do that. And that should be very alarming to you. Growing our own food is ultimately going to liberate us realistically, because we can be rid of the poisoning that is happening to our bodies via the food system. And we can be rid of relying on the prices of these grocery stores to remain consistent. While growing your own food is extremely laborious, time consuming, as well as it can be costly. This is something that if you have the means, I think that you should consider. And I think that you should consider feeding others as well with those means. But the majority of us will continue to buy groceries because that is the most efficient or convenient way for our lives, or so we think. And because of that, we need to hold those accountable who are violating. I'm coming for you, Walmart. Don't fuck around. Fuck around and find out, Walmart. And y'all been exploiting my people for too long. Because think about where the Walmarts are built. Think about where the Walmarts are situated and what communities are they situated, and how a family was able to increase their income in the last 4 years by $20 billion. Think about where those Walmarts, what kind of neighborhoods those Walmarts are in. Okay. And think about the clientele. Y'all been to a Walmart. Y'all know what goes down. It goes down in the Walmart. Okay. Niggas die in Walmarts. So Walmart is by far the ghettoest place on earth, but happens to be a $238 billion industry. And why the fuck do I have so many egg options at the grocery store? Like, I just don't even know what to do. It's like 6, 7 different egg options. It's like you can pay $12 for a dozen of eggs, or you can pay $3 for a dozen of eggs, but they both look the same. Like, what the fuck? That's just a random grievance that I have. All right, moving on. In 1993, a man by the name of Jimmy McMillan ran for. Is that how you say that man's name? Yeah, a man not damn. A man by the name of Jimmy McMillan ran for mayor of New York in 1993. And he said rent is too damn high in 1993, baby. That is 31 years ago. Why are we still dealing with the housing crisis? What is going on with the housing crisis? I'm from California, very crisis like, very, very much crisis like. A lot of crises going on in California. Okay, you could get robbed, you could become unhoused. It's a lot. New York City, moves to New York City, another place where the housing crisis is crisising. Okay, this is a renter's market. This is where people come to rent. They don't really have like a huge. It's not a place where someone comes to necessarily purchase a home in New York City. Okay, there are homeowners. There are plenty of people who've been here for decades who own brownstones and things like that. Realistically, the average American, we renting in this bitch because that's all we can afford. We're renting. We're living in community housing. We are having roommates, and we are not having kids, which we should not at the moment if we're not financially equipped. So that's fine as well. Let's talk about rent. Let's talk about rent because I about had it with rent. So right now, the average cost of an apartment in the whole U.S. is $1,700. That sounds reasonable, right? But then you come to specific locations where there's industries for people who are trying to make a life for themselves, and you want to maybe double that, okay? Because about the average price of rent for a one bedroom in New York City is almost $3,000, damn near. And then you consider that 58% of us are living paycheck to paycheck. And then you consider the amount of us that are living below the poverty line, making only $30,000 or less a month. In order for you to afford a one bedroom apartment, you need to be making, let's see, because they're saying your rent and your bills about should be about 50% of your income. Okay. So if you were a single individual and you wanted to live in a one bedroom apartment in New York City because maybe the work opportunity is better than where you're from, and you need to fucking survive and create something for yourself and your family. So let's see, $2,500 a month. That that means that realistically you should make like about $10,000 a month. Realistically, let's say you work at Walmart, for example. Let's see how much Walmart employees make. So higher than what I thought, but still not high enough, baby. 14.75 an hour. A whopping 14.75 an hour is what a Walmart employee in New York City is making. Meanwhile, the family's making billions. Okay, 1475. Woo wee. They really exploiting the fuck out of us, ain't it? Ain't they? They did their big one with that. They did. Walmart really did their big one with the exploitation thing. Okay, 1475. So let's say you work full time, 40 hours a week, 1475 times 40 hours, you make $590 a week. So in 2 weeks, you'll make about 1180, but for taxes, and you live in a $2,500 one-bedroom apartment. You better live with five other people at that point. The housing crisis is crisising. New York City has about 800,000 homeless people. I might have to add to that soon because the way that this rent is set up, I don't know how much longer I can stay afloat. Another report for another day that I want to discuss is how hard it is to get affordable housing in these cities. Specifically in New York City, I have a friend who's been trying to get, who won the housing lottery. Woo! Yes, so that means he gets housing. Not exactly. That means that he has to jump through 1,000 hoops in hopes of getting housing. Lottery just means you won the chance to get housing. And so from there, you will have to send paperwork, and then they'll email you back or call you back and tell you to send more, and then email you back and call you back, tell you to send more and more and more information. And that is the process until you finally secure your housing. And so I just think about all the single mothers or single fathers or people in survival mode in general in the US that doesn't really have the time to even think for themselves, who has to then circle back with these housing people on countless occasions to get more and more information that they should just request the first time in one round. Make it simple for people. People need housing. Inadequate housing at that. Niggas is slumlords selling you, renting you housing with infestations and bad pipes and mold and the falling infrastructures. Just again, that's another report for another day. But the architecture in New York City, y'all are not even giving people sustainable, safe housing. Niggas is collapsing on themselves and then losing their housing after that. Then what? Can't go to Walmart. Can't go to Walmart and maybe get a snack to help me through this hard time because I'm gonna go broke getting a snack at Walmart. Okay, so I have a scholarly article by Ryan Bourne. It's called Government and the Cost of Living, Income Based versus Cost Based Approaches to Alleviating Poverty. And in this article, he says federal, state, and local governments seek to assist poor households financially using transfers, minimum wage laws, and subsidies for important goods and services. This income based approach to alleviating poverty aims both to raise household incomes directly and to shift the cost of items, such as food, housing, or healthcare to taxpayers. Most contemporary ideas to help the poor sit firmly within this paradigm. That is the intro of this scholarly article. And then he goes on to say, a cost based approach would instead reform existing government interventions that raise living costs for the poor. Shelter, food, transport, and apparel and footwear alone account for 59% of spending by the average household in the bottom 20% of the income distribution. And government policies raise prices in all those sectors. Local land use and zoning regulations constrain housing supply, which raises housing costs and deters labor mobility. State childcare staffing regulations reduce the number of infant centers in poor areas, increasing prices and reducing the payoff to work. The federal sugar program, milk marketing orders, and ethanol mandates make grocery shopping more expensive. Federal fuel standard regulations and state level automobile dealership laws increase the cost of driving. Protectionist tariffs raise clothing and footwear prices. And state occupational licensing creates barriers to entry that raise the price of many services, from hair braiding. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. They wanted you to pay $200, $300, $500, $600, $800 for some box braids, and they want you to have your hair washed, combed, blow dried, permed, ready to go. Okay? Damn. Sorry, that was a personal. And dentistry. Dentistry is somewhere they're also raising the prices while reducing labor market opportunities. One more time for the people in the back. While reducing labor market opportunities. So food is going up. The cost of getting fucking dresses going up. The cost of child care is going up. Woo! Let's talk about wanting to keep poor people poor. Let's talk about it. That is a good way to keep poor people poor, to keep them away from work because they can't find adequate affordable childcare, or to raise the cost of things that they have to buy, like dental work and groceries and clothes to put on your back. This seems like the formula for creating more poor people. And so we have to ask ourselves, who does this serve? Who do these policies serve if not the citizens? Because it's obviously not serving the citizens. Ask yourself that. Who does this serve? Who does this benefit? It's going to be the top 1%. I'm going to just give you the answer. It's the top 1%. And so meanwhile, to wrap this up, I don't want to linger on race for too long. We can save that for another episode, but they got us bickering and arguing about race. They got us bickering and arguing about gender wars. And they got us bickering and arguing about survival, fighting over scraps. Meanwhile, the top 1%, like the Walmart family, is making $238 billion and paying their employees $14.75 an hour, leaving them with $1,180 before taxes on their biweekly checks. And I just think about people who have to come home and feed their families with that check, who has to come home and pay their bills with that check, and try to put food on the table with that check, and try to put clothes on the children's back with that check, and try to have a good time with that check. Like, just leisure. Like, that leaves no money for leisure. Like, fuck going to an amusement park or an aquarium or a botanic garden. These people have to survive. You're forcing these people into this psychological disposition that is survival mode. And then on top of that, you're depriving them of basic necessities. This is inhumane. This is counterproductive to what this country was supposed to is supposedly built on, which is democracy, which is the ability to choose and be prioritized. This is not prioritizing your citizens. The government is putting us in a hole, and it's making it harder and harder, and they're making it harder and harder to climb out of that hole. We're trying to climb, and the hole is just getting deeper and deeper. No diddy. And 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 we need to do something about it. All we can do as citizens is vote, organize, share information like this, and have conversations and have discourse, which is the same thing as conversation. So I'm just being pretentious and redundant in this moment, but have conversations with with our friends, with our foes, shit, all of them, and with our family members. Make sure we know what's going on, because the friend to exploitation, to disenfranchisement, is ignorance, and we cannot remain ignorant. All right, speaking of our government, let's get into the debates, the political debates. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, two fossils fighting for the throne. Any day now, one of them is gonna drop. These niggas is old as dirt, as hell. Nothing is real on their bodies anymore. Everything is injected. All that. It's real fucked up. Some fucked up shit. This is the mummy. This is the return of the mummy. We're being ran. This country is being ran by mummies. Old ass Jim Crow mummies. So, Joe Biden, good old Joe, and Donald Trump, y'all's former president, went at it. It's the first presidential debate. There's going to be many more to come. Usually, the presidential debate is where the candidates get on stage and they try to make each other look as bad as possible. That is what the debate is. You got to stay on your shit, remain charming, remain witty, remain sharp, and just go toe to toe. It's just like when boxers, they do that shit where was the weigh in when they, is it the weigh in? Where they do the face off and they stand face to face and they're like, that's basically what the Democratic, I mean, sorry, that's basically what the presidential debate is, basically. Okay, one, woo, the Democrats got a lot to consider in this time around as far as Joe Biden being the nominee for president, because he's really the best that they got. But man, is this shit looking real dim and dark. Joe, hello, Joe, is anyone there? We need you. We need you because the things that Donald Trump is trying to do is setting it will set us back. The things that Donald Trump is trying to do will set us back. This man, although he can seem entertaining, which well he is entertaining, don't let that make you think that he's harmless though. That is what's dangerous about the entertainment aspect of the whole presidential campaign is that we are forgetting that this is our actual lives that are being affected, okay? And let's go back to the groceries point. It is our government that can do something about that, and that is just one example of the many things that is going on that is pressing right now, okay? We cannot get caught up in the entertainment of this all. Ugh. Although I'm making it very entertaining. I'm just saying, keep in mind that this is also still a very serious issue. Okay, one more thing that was entertaining about it though. Black jobs. The Mexicans stealing the black jobs, Trump. Because at first I thought the Mexicans were stealing everybody's jobs, and now they're stealing the black jobs. Can we just see some of my let's just review some of my favorite black jobs posts. Oh, also, so the so basically the overall consensus is that Trump looked a lot more confident than Joe Biden in what he was saying because Joe Biden is old as fuck. But both of them are old as fuck. Joe Biden is a little bit more senile. He's leaning a little bit more on the senilism spectrum. I don't even know if that's a word, but he's leaning on that way. The only thing is the according to what article was I reading? NPR. Um, they say that the hands-off moderators benefited Trump, so they muted the candidates. So when one candidate was talking, the other one was muted, and so that played in Trump's favor because Trump you weren't able to hear the side busting that Trump was doing. So it made him seem a little bit more together, a little bit more mature than he usually is. But don't let him fool you. That is still the same old orange that we all know and hate. And then, according to NPR, the moderation or lack thereof, this is their words, also allowed Trump to spread falsehoods and hyperbole without being interrupted or corrected. CNN indicated before the debate that the moderators were not going to play a strong role in fact checking the candidates, and they lived up to that. What is going on? Why are we allowing our potential leaders of the nation to spread misinformation? I mean, this has been a thing, but why is this a thing? And we can never forget what Trump did, man. We can never forget him for what happened on the attack of the Capitol. Okay, keep that in mind. Even if the jury acquits, we he that glove fits though for him. Rest in peace to O.J. Simpson, but fuck Donald Trump. Let's look at some of my favorite black jobs posts. So Black Twitter Threads, which is one of my favorite, has become one of my favorite pages on Instagram. They did a thread of what are some black jobs, and I'm already looking and it's already making me laugh. But okay, so my favorites. Okay, here are some: making the potato salad, reasonable; ensuring that the baby has socks on, reasonable. This was my favorite one though. Making sure don't nobody cut through the name on the birthday cake. And that's why this shit took me the fuck out because it's so true. It's like every time you at a black party and it's somebody's birthday, when it's time to cut the cake, it's like, ho, ho, ho. Make sure you keep the name for them. Don't cut through that name. You better not cut through that name or you fucked up the whole party. So speaking of shaking the motherfucking governmental political table, Alexandria Ortez, damn, how you say this bitch name? Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, AOC, she is going to file an articles of impeachment on the Supreme Court. She is dropping a bomb on these old ass niggas. She is sending them all to the nursing home as they should, where they belong, where they belong, where they belong. So, an official statement via X by AOC, the Supreme Court has become consumed by a corruption crisis beyond its control. Today's ruling represents an assault on American democracy, and this is in regards to Trump's federal investigation. It is up to Congress to defend our nation from this authoritarian capture. I intend on filing articles of impeachment upon our return. It is up to Congress to protect us from this authoritarian. Why can't I say that word? It is up to Congress to save us from this authoritarian capture. And yet, here we are. With that, only one Supreme Court justice has ever been impeached in 1804, but Congress does have the power to impeach and convict the Supreme Court. So shout out to checks and balances, baby. Whether the impeachment will be supported, time will tell. But shout out to AOC. And so that's it. Yeah, people with Apple Watches be like, no reason at all. But yeah, that is it. That is all for the politics, for the political segment of the locals, baby. We will not just be covering politics. We will be covering pop culture. Who is we? It's just me. It's just me. It's just me. It's just me by myself. I will not only be covering politics, I will also be covering pop culture. I will also be covering social media news. I will also be covering world news. Okay. I will just be covering anything that there is to know, anything that piques my own personal curiosity, such as the legalization of marijuana in New York City and how's that playing out now. I noticed they cracked down on a lot of the illegal weed spots out here. I do want to report on that. What the hell's going on with that? I want to talk about the evolving views of femininity in the USA throughout time, especially now that it looks like femininity is leaning towards more of a sexual liberation, um, more towards sexual liberation. Let's see. I just would like to see how that plays out. All types of shit. Okay, all types of shit. We're gonna have interviews with people who are gonna report on things that are happening. We're gonna have experts in this bitch. All the things, all the things. So stay tuned. Okay, like, comment, subscribe, keep watching. I will always continue to deliver you information. If there's something that you want to discuss, if there's something that you want to see me report on, or you don't really want to necessarily do the research, you're on your own, you want to send it to me to do more research on it and give you the information back to you, please DM me and I will. I promise you I will. DM me anything. Research, research, research the rat problem in New York City. You DM me that, I'll research the rat problem and I will report on it the next time I post, okay? Send me DMs, like, comment, subscribe, comment. Did I say comment? I said a comment. Engage with each other. It matters. Discourse is what makes the world go round. It helps us connect and it helps us learn and it helps us grow. So that's it for the locals report this time. I'll catch you soon.